One thing I noticed is that sometimes I'll get on TikTok and I'll go through the videos and I will come across these podcast type videos where you see like 8 different people on these podcasts, and they're talking about different topics that are being discussed in the Black community. Okay, I wonder if these people are being watched at their jobs, and I wonder if they're having strange things happen, because a lot of these people talk about controversial issues on TikTok and stuff like that. I wonder if all these people have strange things going on with their jobs, okay? Because I notice it seems to happen to me a lot. And I don't think that if this was happening to as much people as I think that it could be happening to, that a lot of these people would even be on TikTok talking about the controversial subjects that they're talking about. Like, I don't show my face on whenever I'm doing audio videos because of, if you say something controversial, then they got proof. Hey, she's made a YouTube video and she's up there talking about this, that, and the other. And so if you make any type of controversial topics and you talk about that, you have to be very careful, because people can see these videos and then hold that against you. So I wonder if this is happening to other Black people out there. So I'm going to have to, find out about that. But one thing I've noticed also, another situation that I've noticed, is that some of these podcasts that I see, because I'm in the Black sector of YouTube, the Black sector of TikTok. And so whenever I get on TikTok, and a lot of the times I get on TikTok when I'm on my breaks at work, just to have something to do. Because sometimes I don't feel like eating, so I'll just get onto my phone, get onto TikTok and watch videos for my break. And sometimes I'll come across these podcasts, and I've noticed where they'll have like 6 to 9 to 12 different people on these podcasts at a time, okay? And I noticed that, whenever we have these podcasts of 6 or more Black girls, sometimes even, I think it's mostly 6 or more, I've noticed there's always at least one white woman in the podcast. Now, my question is this. I don't go over, when I do go over to the white sector of YouTube or TikTok and I see them having their podcasts, I don't ever see at least one Black person in every single one of their podcasts. Whenever white women are doing podcasts, which I rarely watch, but when I have, just come across some of them, I don't see one Black woman in most of their podcasts, not even one. So why is it that whenever Black people have something that they want to talk about, or they get together and put a podcast together, there always has to be at least one white woman up in the podcast? Why is that? Why do we always have to include Miss Ann in everything we do? But yet when you go over to the white sector of TikTok or YouTube, they don't include just one Black woman in all of their podcasts. So why do Black people feel like everything they do, they have to have at least one white person involved? Why is that? And I've noticed this mostly with Black females. Because I noticed when black men do their podcasts, most of their podcasts all consist of black men, period. That's it. It's just black men. So why is it that when black women do a podcast, in many of them, not all, but in many of them, there's always at least one white girl up in there? Why is that? Why can't we ever have anything all black? Why do we always have to share whatever we got going on with at least one white woman? Why are white people, why are black women so inviting of the oppressor? Every topic we discuss, everything we do, everywhere we go, one white woman has always got to be up in there with us. We got biracials, so why don't you guys just put a biracial girl up in there? If you must have someone with light skin up in there, why can't you get your own, people? Yeah, she might be mixed race, but at least she's part black. Why do you feel like you always got to include at least one white girl in almost 50% of their podcasts, or maybe even a third? Okay. But I think it's probably maybe 50% even. I think it's probably 50%. I just think it's weird. Even black churches, every black church I go to, there's always one or two white women up in there all the time. I've never been to a single black church where it was all completely black. There's always at least one or two white women in there. Why is that? I'm just curious to know why so many white women feel so comfortable in an all-black church. What is that all about? But if I went to an all-white church, I wouldn't feel that comfortable. Not if I'm the only black one up in there. So why do white people feel so comfortable with black people? What are black people doing to make them feel that way? But yet you can't even invite mulattoes into your spaces, but you can invite full-blown monoracial white women into your spaces. Some of you black women out there are pathetic. You really are. You'll accept a white monoracial woman over a biracial woman just because you personally feel she gets more attention than you do when it comes to black men. When in actual reality, that white woman actually has priority over all black men than you and the biracial girl combined. She's got top priority, but you'll accept her over someone who's half black. I never could understand that about black women. I've had cases where, upon growing up, there would be black girls hanging out in groups of 3s or 4s. There was always one white girl in the group. They would include a white girl. They would include a white girl into these groups, but not a biracial one, because she might attract a black man, but for some reason they don't think that white girl would. I don't understand how the monoracial thinks. It's just mind-boggling to me. I don't get how you all think. You'll invite the oppressor into your spaces over a biracial girl who's half black. I really don't understand how you all think. You think that the oppressor is on your side. You think that she's the ally over somebody who's half black. It's just interesting to me how some black women think. And because I have seen a lot of cases where black women will hang out with a white woman, but she won't have a thing to do with a biracial one. but that white woman could take your man quicker than a biracial girl could, but you would rather hang out with this white woman over someone who's 50% black. And I've seen this a lot in the black community. Black women will choose monoracial white women over a biracial woman to be partners with, to be friends with. It's almost always the white woman over the biracial woman. And when in reality, that white woman could take a whole lot away from you, more so than what that biracial girl could. But yet you would rather hang out with the full-blown oppressor. I just don't get how black women think. I just don't get it. It's shocking to me. It really is. Because a lot of you black women out there can't go over into the white community and put yourself on into their podcasts. That wouldn't happen. Nowhere. And if you do see it, it's rare. But rarely are you ever going to see podcasts where there's 6 white women and 1 black one. Rarely ever do I ever see that. Rarely ever do you see podcasts where it's all white with 1 black woman. They just don't feel like they have to include black women into their stuff. A lot of them like to do things with just their people. So how come black women are not the same way? It's just, and even when white women do podcasts, they won't even include biracial girls in with the majority of their podcasts. Not even a biracial girl, unless it's a mixed podcast where you might have 6 white women, 2 black, and 1 biracial. I don't think I've ever seen that actually, but they might have something like that before they would have a podcast where it's mostly consisting of the majority white with 1 black, and it's consistent like how we have it over in the black community. It's just really weird. So, my question is, do black women out there feel like you can't function with just black people? Why do you always have to have Miss Ann in there, tucked in somewhere in the community? She always has to appear. It's almost like you guys don't have enough confidence in yourself to do things alone. The only time I've seen an all black female podcast if it's a controversial topic. But when it's a topic talking to black men or about black male, issues, dating situations, about, topics where women take interest in black men, there is always at least 1 white girl present. But you don't see that over in their community, in their podcasts, where they're all talking about the interest of white men, where they include 1 black woman. You're not going to see that because they don't feel like they have to have a black woman present to be comfortable in their shoes, in their skin. I mean, in their psyche. They just don't feel the need to include black women in every single thing they do. So my question is, why do you guys feel like, Miss Ann has to be involved in everything we do? There have been a number of podcasts that I've seen on YouTube where there's always at least 1 white girl. It's just questionable about your about how you guys think. I don't know. I just find that very interesting. There's also another topic I would like to discuss about 2 mulatto girls. There's this wannabe Mulatta on TikTok. I think she goes by the name of, it's Mulatta. I can't remember. But there's a mulatto girl. There's not, I'm sorry, there's a whole white girl on TikTok making herself out to be a mulatto, a mulatta female. She's a whole white woman, and she calls herself mulatta something. And so one day I questioned her. I said, "Are you half black, or how are you calling yourself a mulatta?" She actually said mulatto, but how are you calling yourself? We'll just say mulatto just for now. But how are you calling yourself a mulatto? And then she said, "Oh, well, my father is black." Or I think she said half black or part black. I can't remember now what she said, but she said, "Oh, well, my father is black." And I said, "You don't look like you could be half black. I'm just saying, you look like a whole white woman to me." And then I think she said, "Oh, well, he's part black." And I said, "Well, if that's the case, you would be considered a quadroon, not a mulatto." I have a really good trained eye. I can usually tell a quadroon and an octoroon. It's hard with the octoroons sometime, but I can typically see that black blood in them. If it exists, I can usually see it miles away. Okay, black people just have, black and biracial people and or mixed race people have that gift. They can see that black blood in another mixed race person, okay? But this girl, I think a lot of that is she's just putting on that title so that she can monetize off of it. And I think it's unfair to mulatto women that you got a whole white girl on TikTok using your identity to monetize off of it. And after I called her out, I noticed that she lost a lot of followers after that. I don't know if it was because of me or if maybe, I don't know. But I kind of noticed, like, after I called her out in front of, her crew, then I kind of noticed she started losing people. And I don't know if I did that or if I mentioned this in another video, and maybe some of my followers might have went over to TikTok and said something to her. They might have called her out on it. But if mulattoes are listening, make sure you're watching to protect your identity. Don't let these white girls use your image or try to be in your image and monetize off of it, because they will. Okay, they will put on a darker foundation. They will perm their hair if they have to. They'll put on a whole wig if they have to get that kinkier hair look. They will do whatever they have to do to pass themselves off as mulattoes so that they can, monetize off of it or get attention from men. But yeah, her video was supposed to be monetized, and she had all these mulatto guys. I think they were black or mulatto or both, or could have been some white guys even up in there. But yeah, she had all these so-called followers until I got up on there and called her out. And then the last two times when I accidentally pulled her up, because I got to unfollow her. I keep forgetting to unfollow her. But when I accidentally pulled up her TikTok onto my TikTok, I noticed she didn't have hardly anybody in her room, in there with her. And so if you guys did hear me and called her out on it, good for you, because you should not be allowing these white women to monetize off of your identity, because they will if you let them. Oh, they definitely will. And when I asked her, I was like, so your father is black? And I think later she said, well, he's half black or something like that. And so I said, that would make you a quadroon in that case. But she didn't look like a quadroon to me. Mariah Carey actually does look like a quadroon. You could see that black blood in her. But this girl was a whole white woman trying to pass herself off as a mulatta female. So you mulatto girls out there, you make sure you are checking these videos, these girls claiming that they're mulattas and that they're a part of the community. If they're monetizing off of it, you need to get into their spaces and make sure that they're what they're claiming to be. Because even quadroons and octoroons should not be calling themselves mulattoes, because they're not. They're not mulattoes. Mulattoes are people in the 50% range, 50 to 60% at best range. That's it. If it's 65 and over, that's a whole quadroon. Okay, so you guys really need to be protecting your identity and calling these girls out, because they will, both these white girls and these Latina girls, they will try to monetize off of your identity. Don't let them do that. Call them out, because you can't go into their community and say that you're white or you're Latina. You can't do that, because if they find out that you're not, they'll call you out on it. Okay, so you make sure you're correcting these wannabe mulattas, because they shouldn't be monetizing off of something that they're not. Okay, and that's pretty much all I have to say about this topic. Thanks so much for listening.